So today we're talking about the idea behind emotions in leadership. And if you've been in leadership for any amount of time, you've had leaders that have led you, which we all have, you may be thinking to yourself, emotions. That's not something that we talk about in leadership. The whole point of leading people is to see how productive they can be, to get to that next thing, to be that person who is thus making it to where we are getting our people from point A to point B. Whether I'm a manager leading them towards that specific goal that I have for that quarter or year, or I'm a C suite executive who's trying to get the company to a certain spot for ROI and our funders and all of those pieces. So, what does that look like when we talk about emotions and we throw that in there? Because emotions are sticky, they're not easily measurable. They are in that idea of soft skills. But yet, we'll sit here and talk about this idea of emotions are the things that sell. And we also talk about this idea of that we want our team bought in. So, when we think about it like that, we're talking about buy in, we're talking about emotions. And how does that look as a leader? And how do I manage those for and with my people? Because obviously, if you've been on this earth for any period of time, we all know that the only person that we can completely control is ourselves. We can't control how our team feels. We can't control how our boss feels. We can't control the way that our customers feel, but we can make them put it in a way that doesn't make them feel a certain way, but encourages them towards feeling that certain way. So when we think about that and we talk about this idea of feeling in leadership and emotions, the first thing that I want you to think about today is how do I start talking to people so that they can feel safe with me? Because we know that when people feel safe, they're more likely to listen. When people don't feel safe, they're going to push away. So think about this from everybody's been around a little kid at some point, or you were a little kid. And here's the thing is when we don't feel safe, we start to push away. We start to try and find our way out. So if your team is feeling unsafe, they're going to find the easiest way out. They're going to try and get out of that situation. And a lot of times, what this does is it creates a situation where our high achievers end up leaving an organization completely because there is no psychological safety. So if I'm screaming at people, if I'm standing over their shoulder all the time, if every little thing is nitpicked at, those are signs that we now have a bad leadership environment. And everybody's done that at some point. Everybody's lost their temper. Everybody's nitpicked about something because they've had a bad day. So I don't want you to sit here and think, well, I've done that. I'm a bad leader. It just means that there was a moment of bad leadership. And it takes us into this idea of when we start to think about these pieces that we're putting into place, the emotional piece that we're creating. So if I yell at somebody and tell them to do a specific task, like let's say that there's an email that needs to go out by 5 p.m. today and it's last minute and you're frustrated as the leader that the top down sent that to you, not understanding that it takes a little bit more time to do that task than what they're giving you. So you get frustrated. You then delegate it, which is correct, to a team member, but you end up yelling at them to tell them to do it, or you're rude to them to tell them to do it because you now had an emotional response from the situation that has happened. So then what now happens? That person that we just delegated that to now has an emotional response by how it was delivered. The same thing, the same situation can happen. We can have somebody from the top down send us something and then delegate it to somebody else on our team. And I can say, hey, Bob, I know that this is super last minute and that you're really busy today, but I need you to make this a priority. Can you please get this out before 5 p.m.? And we'll work on all the rest of the things that don't get done today. Don't worry about that. This is from so and so at the top, and we need to make sure that this happens. That's going to give a different emotional response because of the fact that I'm able to now give them a very easy way to get it done without repercussions of, oh my gosh, okay, I have to do this. And now there's all these other things on my plate. So the thing about emotions is that a lot of times a situation will happen and then we like to tell ourselves stories along the way. We have an emotional response and then we create our own stories based on that response. So employee that we delegated it to in the yelling situation, they could be thinking to themselves, they're mad at me. I've done something wrong. When we know the situation has nothing to do with them doing anything wrong. However, because of the way that we delivered that, we've now created an emotion that creates a story, which then creates a situation. And now all of a sudden, we have a bunch of things happening as a leader that we didn't mean to start, but we've created a domino effect of this comes down from the top. I get irritated. I yell at the person I delegate it to. That person who I delegated it to now has more work on their plate. And it has an emotional response that is continuously creating stories for them. And then the next piece that you have with them, now, even if you've calmed down, you regulated yourself, all of those pieces, now they're going to have a different response towards you because now they have a story in their head. Can we solve those when those problems happen? Because we're human, it's going to happen. Yes, there are communication ways to do that. But if this is something that you're dealing with in your organization where there seems to be a communication gap, the leadership is not communicating in a way that you want them to, or your team is not working with you in the way that you want them to, 90% of the time it comes down to communication. So when we're communicating well with people, we're trying to get rid of all of these extra pieces that create these other stories for them. So if this is something that you're wanting to look more into, I would love to hop on a call with you. You can drop a DM for me, you can drop a comment, and let's talk through your specific situation. Because as a leader, you have a lot on your plate. There's a lot of things that are happening. And how can we start taking some of those things off by tweaking little things here and there that then help your people do the task easier, better, faster, so that you can get to the goals that you have for this quarter as we end out this quarter and for 2025. So you can go to kabrinaashley.com/strategy-call and let's set up a time. Let's talk through this and see how we can make your life easier and more efficient moving forward.